There we go. All right, perfect.
Awesome.
So can you see the screen okay?
You can.
Good. So I'm in the Idaho WITs training instance, and Tim may use this instance as well. They're our QA site. I'm just going to use training because I did training for them back in June, and we had a bunch of clients that were set up for training, and we didn't use them all. So I want to make use of that. So within WITs, and I know Nora, you probably haven't seen our system before.
Um, yeah, I only saw it the day you guys demoed it for Jean and Mary Lou.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I just put in the internet cord so it get better connection.
Don't you have a charger?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, go ahead.
That's okay.
So I'll catch you on the replay any second that I miss.
That's fine. So at a high level, within a state, and this is Idaho, we could have basically we have different types of agencies. One is the contractor agency, and that's the agency at this in this state. It's the state substance abuse agency that can set up different types of payer plans. So we have, I'm just going to go ahead and add a new one. I won't save it. But we have different types of payer plans that are available. And this really is at a very high level. So we've got Medicaid, self-pay, group insurance, Medicare, other, and then government contract. I'm going to focus on the government contract piece of things. Mm-hmm. Tim will go into more of the benefit plan payer plans. So if I go into government contract, and this is all set up stuff, so I'm not going to go into it. I'm just going to go into one that's already been set up. This is basically, let's say the state had specific funding. They had a bucket of money that they wanted to, make available for their DD population. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about the authorizations based on the individual service plan. Part of what I'm going to show you is how we manage authorizations in WITs. And okay. that really, I think, can tie back to some of the things that we want to do with the DD system, or at least the prototype. It may not fit exactly, and so that's fine, but it just gives you a point of reference at least. So we have our payer plans at a high level. And honestly, I don't know which one Jennifer has set up for this one. I think it's probably this MMC training, I think. Yeah. Within each payer plan, we also have the authorization periods. So within a payer plan, we could have multiple authorization period. That covers obviously different years. So, or different, it could be a year, it could be 4 years, it could be, I guess, a quarter, it could be whatever they wanted to set it up as. So we have our authorization periods, which is controlled in a different part of the system down here. But with those are set up, we can choose which authorization period is available. So let's say I'm doing my fiscal year 13. I can set in my overall budget for that. I'll go into one.
And is that the budget for the person or the state?
For the state, for this payer plan in that time frame.
Payer plan would be a government contract. So let's
Correct.
Just say that's a waiver, for example, or a state.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. So this would relate to that very well. So we set up our overall budget. So this is the bucket of money in this payer plan, right? And then this, at any time, the contractor agency at the state can come back and take a look later on to see what has been allocated, what's been vouched, what's still available.
Okay.
And we'll see where this ties into the individual client services and authorizations at the client level. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to back up here. And from here, what I want to show you next is, on the payer plan as well, what we can also do is because in at least substance abuse and access to recovery, there's the mechanism for the case manager or the care coordinator to set up services for the individual, and they can actually in the system, unless the state has designated a client cap, the care coordinator or case manager in this case could create a voucher, create an authorization for $150,000, where they may have a limit by individual of how much that person can receive. So there are the caps that are in here that are built in. So you can have a standard client cap. You can also have a client-specific cap, and then we also have in a different part of the area or system, we have service caps. So for each service, there's a cap that can be set per individual.
For each service, there's a cap that can be set in general, for the service in general, for everyone, or for each individual?
For each individual, right. So if I'm one individual, if I have my, let's say, residential service, let's say in, overall in my entire, and this is substance abuse, so we'd have to modify it for DD, because DD is a lot longer term. So it might be by year, but this is overall, for this client, overall in the system, they can have up to X dollar amount for this given service. Let's say it's for residential.
Okay, I see.
So that's able to be set in here as well.
Okay.
If you were to, if this were to be kind of a, more of a visual type of thing, showing, how much is available, and, there's kind of a, how much is available for the client, and then how much you have left. I'm trying to figure out what those numbers, all the numbers here. So you can't spend more than $5 million on this client?
This is not client. This is all clients.
Okay. I was going to say, that's a pretty decent, I can live within that budget. So
Yeah.
you only need to spend half that on me, Corey.
So that's the total amount allocated for that particular service?
For that, no, for this payer plan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
Within
then
the payer plan, and the payer plan is the highest level, right? So it's the umbrella that encompasses everything underneath it.
Exactly, okay.
So we have payer plan. Then we also have
you might consider this to be waiver services, or the waiver.
the waiver, like for the entire state for all people, right?
What screens does this impact? So does at some point when that number is used up, then that's not an option anymore from drop-down boxes, or what is this?
It would not allow them to bill. So this ties directly into billing, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit at the client level. Okay. So what I don't think I'm just going to show you quick at the contract level. So in the system, each provider agency, they all have their own agencies records, and they all log into separate agencies, right? So MSC, my contractor agency, it has a contract with all of these agencies in WITs, where they set up the contract, and let's just get the one I'm going to use. I think it's state training. Okay, so they set up the contract. So they have an agency record, but MSC is the contractor. They control the money. This agency that this contract for this agency it's state training is the agency name. MSC has a contract with state training, so they set up this contract, and they have an effective date of the contract. They can always cancel the contract. They can also enter a monthly cap.
And Nora, are you familiar with that yellow design, the WITS yellow required field design?
You just explained it to me.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Yeah, we don't have time to go into absolutely everything here, but yeah, yellow is required. They can associate the plan. So
For a person, or what, like? For
the contract, right? So these are our payer plans that we.
Within a contract, you have plans. Right?
You can associate, right? You have the plan is at the high level, and then you have a contract with an agency, with a provider, right? and that provider might have more than one plan, because you could have, you could have the waiver, right? You could have state funding, you could have county funding, you could have a nonprofit funding that you're managing, all of these
Right.
different sources of funding, right?
Uh-huh.
And those are all plans,
Okay.
at least in this concept.
And what is the contract then?
The contract is with the specific provider. So you set
Yeah.
up the contract, and on the contract, you identify that contract is authorized to provide or to spend money from these specific plans. So we might have the waiver and the state. So this contract or this
Okay.
provider on their contract, they can have money from the state and the waiver. Whereas
Right.
another contract, you may have it from the county and the waiver.
Okay.
So I won't go into that much detail. That's a lot. Um, Groups I'm not even going to touch on right now. That we don't need to worry about that.
Do you guys have any kind of like kind of a fee for service, like a
Mhm.
fee for service essentially? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, we do.
Okay.
And it's kind of all based on fee for service. Let me just go into the client level here for this, and then Tim will touch on a lot of stuff too that is more specific to like Medicaid billing, etc.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm actually going to go into which client was it? I forgot.
Sorry, I have so many questions, Corey. I'm just trying to put it all in perspective.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So our client. So we are within the system. We're at our client level. Where we were before was really more at our agent or our contractor agency level, like the overall setup, right? So if I'm a provider, I can go in and work on my client profile. This is where I would add the information for the client profile. It's already here, so I don't need to do it. I also want to go into trying to think of what would be the best to show you here.
The client group enrollment, maybe? Did you go to
Yeah.
this person?
That I did that before on here, and it's kind of weird. Where is it? I'm not seeing it for some
Under
reason.
profile.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Corey, can you go back? You had something called encounters. What was that?
Yep, we're gonna get to that. That's
Okay.
kind of the end result that ties everything back to the billing, or that starts our billing process. Let me actually, this Idaho gets a little confusing because what they do is they enroll the person at the contractor agency, so they get the person's information. And so it's a little different from what we would look at for DD. But what they do is they enroll the person here, they actually create a referral, a consent, which is a release of information to another agency, and that's the provider agency. So they actually go in, they create the client profile, they do what's called an intake, which is just enrolling them in a specific program.
Mm-hmm.
Or not in a program, but opening up the case, basically. And then what Idaho does, and this is where it differs, but what they do is create a consent record so that they're agreeing, they are agreeing to share information with another agency outside of their own, okay, with the provider agency. And then they do a referral. And with the referral, what they do is they dictate, okay, where is this person going to be going to for services? So they create the referral and attach to the referral, and you don't have to remember all this, Nor or Tony.
Yeah,
Don't worry
yeah.
about that, okay?
Well,
What they do. Sorry?
Oh, that's okay. I'll just be playing the encore version of this back.
That's okay. We can always go through it again. But this is really more specific to Idaho. There are different versions of how states use this, right? But I wanted to get to the voucher or the authorization. So, okay, so this is where, let's pretend the administering agency is a case management agency. That's kind of how I'm maybe sort of envisioning for this.
Yep.
So my administering agency, so I'm at a case management agency. They are, responsible with the individual for going through the ISP. They get authorization for they get approval for the ISP from the jurisdiction. Then they have to do something with that. They have to get the client into services. And our terminology will change with DD, but you get the point.
Mhm.
They get into services. And so what we do in WITs for those clients, what we call the plan-based authorizations or vouchers, is that the case manager creates that authorization record. Okay? And so within that authorization record, this is what is already created. We have a couple things I'll point out. One is the effective date and the end date. This is the date range in which the services that are attached to this voucher or this authorization can be provided to the individual. These date ranges have to fall within, it has to be tied back to a contract for that provider that's going to be providing these services. And that's tied to the authorization period and the payer plan, what we set up initially. So it all ties back up to the waiver, let's say. So they would have to choose when creating this authorization. Okay, there's an authorization for services at let's see, the state training agency, right? They have to set it up where they would really be tied to that authorization period and what plan is this under. So is it under the waiver? Is it county funded? Is it state funded for these specific services?
And so far it's been through contract. You're providing X hours of services for this person for this time period, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
And they're authorized. Sorry, Did you have something?
Well, I was just thinking, you might be providing. In this case, the authorization is tied to one provider or multiple. Can it be multiple providers here?
It can only be one provider.
Yeah, and so in DD, you might have a number of providers, and the case manager would want to see all the entire authorization at once, but it might be split out between multiple providers.
True.
Well, in DD, I think part of this will be good because they do need to. The government does negotiate contracts, right? With, for example, human resources. The service, it seems, when you're serving people, then it's a fee-based system. But I think this is all very useful so far. So.
And how we do it in Access to Recovery, and this is similar, is that the case manager creates multiple referrals and multiple vouchers. Because the client could go to 4 different agencies, one agency for counseling, one agency for transportation, another agency for whatever, recovery support. So what they do is create multiple referral records, and then attach each one of those referrals to different agencies. They have a voucher attached. But Tim's right. I mean, we can do it any way we wanted to that made sense for DD, where they had one big authorization tied to the ISP, and then they section it out, like, they're going to get this service from this agency, this from this. And in that way, maybe there's an alert and access for that each individual agency where they can see what it is that they're authorized to provide the client, the individual, in what time frame. Maybe what their operational, maybe we tie in the operational days to it too. Although I'm still fuzzy on what that looks like. But this is how we do it for WITs.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, ignore my screen for a minute. I'm just going to switch to a different context. State training. And client 68. Oh, I didn't accept it. So, okay, so there's the concept in here, which I don't know that we would have to do for DD, is the referral. I have to actually accept the referral. So I, as a provider agency, I can take a look at my referrals that are sent to me by the case manager in this case, and I can choose to accept it or decline it. Okay, so I can actually see once the referral is sent to me, I can look at it, I can determine if I have slots available, if I have the number of staff available, whatever the case is. So then if I do choose, I can either reject it, the referral, or I can place and accept the referral. And if I place accept it, then that client becomes active within my agency context in WITs. So within my agency, that's a client now of my own. Okay. And I also go into, so now this is my client. I'm at state training. I'm the provider now. I accepted the referral. It becomes my own client. I can go in, I need to go in and actually look at my authorization. So this is the authorization that the case manager had created for me. And the case manager is at a whole separate agency, right? They're the ones that sent the referral. So I can look at, okay, this new client that I just got, this is the effective date of the services on this voucher or authorization. These are the services, and this is what has been authorized for me to provide. So we, in the background at the state level, at the contractor level actually, they can assign what the rate is. Okay. I didn't go into that. We can, and to look at, okay, so 1 unit equals how much money? This is the total amount, but let's see. Let me just go ahead and accept it. So once I accept it within this time frame, I can provide services. And this is a little bit old, but it's still active until 9:30, so I can still bill for services. Mm-hmm. Okay. Once I do that, you guys following me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Once I do that, I can go ahead and provide a service to an individual, to a client, based on this in my agency. And that's where we're going to go to. And I'm sorry this menu is so messy with Idaho. There's a lot of stuff on here that they use. So anyway, within my client record, I have the ability to enter encounters, and Nora, you saw that earlier. Mm-hmm. So I want to go into my encounters, and that's what I enter when I actually provide a service. So if I want to enter an encounter record, oh, I've got to admit them. Damn it.
There we go. I got to pull the tapes now.
Profile and intake. You know what? I'm going to go into a different client.
This is interesting. At some point, I want to take a look at. There's another menu item there that says ASAM that I would love to take a look at some point.
Sure.
Not on today's call, but I didn't even know that we had anything like that.
I think it just collects the scores.
It does.
Oh, okay.
It's not the assessment. It's just the score.
Oh, okay. All right. And now you don't need to see it.
But they actually, in Idaho, they do require an ASAM review. We'll get to that point in a second. Hold on. Encounters. So, good, we have some here. I'm just choosing a different client that already has an admission because I don't want to go through that whole process. So this is my encounter record. So when I actually provide a service, I enter an encounter for each session that I provide. And maybe a service, in residential, maybe it's a daily thing. It just depends on what the service is and what the state requires. It's very configurable that way. So maybe it's a whatever. And now I need to know what my service is. OP individual, okay.
I can tell this must be the meaningful use certified version of WITs with the midline plus displayed on the top right hand side.
It is. So here we see program name that ended on 5/21. So that's not going to work for me. All right, hold on. I got to find a better client. I don't want to end this. Oh, that's why. I see. Okay, so I need to end this on 9:30. This is our program enrollment. This is, I don't know that I go into that necessarily. We
The beauty of
collect,
real software.
what's that?
I said the beauty of real software. It actually enforces constraints. Our prototype won't do any of that stuff.
Right, right. Oh, the individual. All right, so let's see if we can. 930. So then it asks for all of the information here: start date, end date, time, etc. How many sessions that's going to correlate. In WITs, there are two different types of services. One is duration based, and the other is unit based. I believe these are set up as I think they are unit based, but we'll find out in a second. Okay. Yep.
Would
Nope.
it
It's
show any-
it's duration based, and actually this will calculate my rate, what or the charge, the claim.
Oh, so you need to tell it. You need to say a session is equivalent to a duration of 60. You always have to put in a number of units, but sometimes you put in a duration.
Exactly. It
Okay.
depends on how the service is set up, and right now it
Okay.
looks like this is set up. So actually,
But all services have units, but some of them are further described as units plus duration.
right, right.
Okay.
So if I click save here, it actually calculates my duration, and it's when I create the claim item, that's what's going to help me calculate what the reimbursable charge is. Okay. Don't remember. I think they require a note before I can release. So this is progress notes. I just want to add that in here. There are some other things that we do in substance abuse we tie to, or we can tie to the encounter, such as their treatment goal, the objectives, the interventions. So for this encounter, let's say it's counseling, what did I provide? If I provided counseling, how does that relate back to their treatment plan? My goal, one of my goals in the treatment plan is to work on, resolving family issues. And so maybe if maybe it ties back, my session in counseling, we talked about my family issues, so I can associate my goal with that. Okay. We have to come up with something with not necessarily like this, but something like that for DD. And then I can release it to billing. So save it first. There are a lot of check constraints behind the scenes that make sure, and business rules that make sure everything is completed before I can release it to billing. Okay.
For our purposes, and Nora and I, we were talking about it, that there may be some items just for the prototype where we might want to just demonstrate these are the checks and balances that we are simulating having run, and just make a screen that just kind of describes those checks and balances.
Right.
But,
right. Yep, it's got to check back against the authorization, which checks back against the contract, the payer plan, and the authorization period. And then, from the client standpoint, there are certain activities that have to be done before we can even get to this point. They have to be admitted, they have to have a program enrollment, client group enrollment, all of these different things to enroll them into the specific bucket of funding that we need to have them in order to bill. So everything was successful with this. And I'm going to wrap up because Tim needs to have some time to go through this as well. So now I can actually see, once I release that to billing, from the billing standpoint, and this is maybe a separate billing person, my case manager or my provider would probably never go into the billing piece of it once it turns into a claim item. But my billing person at the agency would actually be able to go in and manage all of my claims, my charges. I'm just going to show you, let's sort by release date. 9/24. So here's my client and this encounter or claim item that was just created, and I just was created based on my encounter. And so here's the calculation. So the number of units apparently was actually 6 units based on the time that I had entered the duration. My unit rate is 1240, so it calculates my total charge for this. So then from here, the billing person can actually reject it, send it back to the provider, or they can create the batches. So they can create a claim batch that batches all of a bunch of claims together and then submits it to the payer, to the contractor, for payment. and I'm not going to show all that right now. We'll go through Tim's stuff first, I think, and then try and confuse you even more with this if we come back to it later. So, do you guys have any questions about authorizations? Oh, the one thing I didn't mention is for the client, and my client was blue number 3. Okay. So blue 3. So my authorization, what I can do, the other thing that we have available in plan-based authorizations are requests, change requests. So if my authorization is, if my end date is running up, or I'm out of services, or if I want to, I need to get something different, I can actually create a new change request to send back to the case manager saying, okay, my end date's coming up, I need it to be extended another year, or whatever the case is. And there's a mechanism in here for them to put the justification for that, the comments, or if they want to add units to it. How many more units are they asking for? And then they submit it, the case manager or the contractor, whoever authorized the voucher, can go in and actually electronically, change the voucher from there. So that's another piece of it. Okay, I'm going to stop there with the authorization piece, the plan-based authorizations. And Tim, do you want to go into benefit plan?
Okay.
Gave you control.
Did you give me control?
I did. There you go.
Your screen up.
Yeah, is your screen? I don't know if it's just me.
It looks like I'm viewing Corey viewing.
Yeah.
We're in an endless loop. Somehow.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I'm watching you watch yourself. And
that's fun. I'm glad I didn't do anything bad.
I'm watching. Somebody is watching themselves.
I need to stop presenting. That's what I need to do. All right.
Go.
Sorry. I wonder why it was so small there.
We somehow had 2 mirrors with perfect digital replications of each other.
All right, Tim, you should be able to start sharing.
I'm not seeing where to.
It's the little monitor icon. Let's see.
There we go. Wait.
You want to share? Yeah, whatever. It's loading, so it's probably working. By the way, I don't know, Nora, if you put in the Wisconsin decision tree.
Mm-hmm.
I found that very helpful.
Yeah, I thought we just found it,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Tony puts it in. I don't know how he.
Oh.
I just found it, and he puts it in.
Perfect.
We mix it up pretty well. Is that the decision tree? That's the one that tells you if you're eligible.
Yeah, technically eligible.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you seeing my screen at all?
Yep.
Oh, are you seeing the WIT screen or?
We're seeing WITs QA.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to show you something similar to what Corey showed you, but this is related to Medicaid. Let me find the payer plan. Here it is. It's on top. So this is a payer plan set up for a Medicaid plan, and in this case we'd be billing using an 837 form.
And this is your billing Medicaid, right?
This is billing Medicaid. So it's the same type of setup if we were billing Blue Cross or any private insurance, Medicare. And we're able to select the type of form. So a paper form or an 837 would be the appropriate types of billing forms in this case. And really, the only thing that's really different on these profiles is the HIPAA information, the EDI information. So if you're familiar with the 837s, this is where all the EDI information is entered. I don't know that DD would be using 837s or paper forms like this for billing, but I guess in the off chance that they are,
Yeah.
there's this capability.
Well, I thought we kind of asked, and there was a possibility. I mean, that's where I'm still a little bit. I don't know. I'm still a little bit confused
I
on
think
it.
the waiver
But
billing is going to be more similar to LTSS in terms of how they bill
Mm-hmm.
Medicaid.
And the government contract
So
that we were just looking at.
yeah, so it's going to be like LTSS now has these procedure codes that match up to MMIS.
Mhm.
And so the provider enters in a particular procedure code and it's invoiced to MMIS because MMIS can match their procedure code,
Right.
right? So
And
I don't know if that's helpful.
But doesn't this, Tim? I mean, if it's an 837, is that in most states? Isn't that submitted to the MMIS system?
yes, it is.
Okay.
And
And
is it by procedure or
Mhm.
by what?
yes. And
Yep,
let me
it's
just
And
open
then,
your
then it's probably the same thing. Yeah, there's your procedure code.
right. But this is done the same way for. It's slightly different for government contract, but
yeah. On the government contract stuff that I just showed you, we also have procedure. I didn't show you the service this list, but it's the same. I mean, we have procedure
Right.
codes that are tied to the services,
Mhm.
whether it's CPT or HIPS, whatever it is.
yeah. So let's look at one of these as an example. So this is an individual psychotherapy service, and the procedure code, the CPT code 90806, with 4 different modifiers available. And that's how you'd set up the service and the procedure. And then that service is available on the encounter. And where Corey selected an encounter previously, that's where this service is coming from. So this so the difference with government contract and Medicaid billing, if we look at this test client, we have an enrollment to Medicaid. So we call it a client group enrollment in this case. And this one is set up as Optum testing, the Optum plan in Idaho. And this client is set up with a coverage start date of January 1st and no end date. And here's the Medicaid number in this field, the subscriber number. But these are all fields that are used on the 837.
Mm-hmm.
The encounter is exactly the same as what Corey showed you.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just look at one that's already been entered. So when we selected individual psychotherapy, that ties back to a CPT code.
Mm-hmm.
When you release it to billing, I don't know if we could actually do that real quick. In this case, it selects the care plan or the client group enrollment that the client has. So in this case, Medicaid. Just that service. If I don't pick the right service, there has to be a rate set up for the service.
Mm.
45.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
there's a lot of services in there.
yeah. I'm gonna. I don't know what it is, but
In our simulation, is there a better way to do that than drop down boxes? And I'm just wondering, is that kind of consistent?
I think the procedure codes are necessary in order if you want to do any kind of billing. If you're going to bill Medicaid,
Yeah,
need
it
the
ties it
procedure.
all it always ties back to the procedure code. It's just on with the provider, do they know the name of the service or do they know the procedure code or both? Right?
Right. The
I'm thinking like auto suggest boxes or something like that for.
Well, and having a way to type it in, to type into the
Yes.
field, is much
Yep.
better. We haven't had that capability in WITs until the new release is coming out. So
Okay.
yes, trying to find it from a drop-down is very difficult.
Yeah, in ATR we actually filter. I mean, we have the contract service rates, so we can on the contract, so we can. It's limited to only those that have.
Be those that are on the ISP of the person.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we should limit it. Really, we should limit it to that because that is what should be authorized by the jurisdiction for that person.
Right.
So that's a good suggestion. Yep.
And then once it gets to billing, that billing person can make changes to that service. So, and I think they see the CPT code in their screens.
I honestly, if I'm just thinking about it from my perspective. If we got to just before the billing person, we'd be doing well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that we need to simulate the actual
The actual billing.
right
Yeah.
now. I think it would be too much, and I don't even know that we're gonna get to the rest of this before October 15th.
No, right. You're right.
Yeah. I think that this is similar to LTSS.
Okay,
I
good.
think there's a lot of overlap. I think LTSS has an electronic visit verification that we can also like sell, which is
Mhm.
good. But it seems pretty similar to me, but I guess I know you guys have all given me high level overviews, so I don't want to assume anything. And obviously WITS is a bit more extensive. And no,
Yeah.
I mean, their new
Yeah.
system, ISAS, implements a lot of what WITS does.
Okay.
Except if there's the electronic visit verification aspect of it.
Yeah, as far as what we base it off of, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we just need to come up with kind of the concept of what's going to
An
work.
idea, yeah, and that's what I'm more worried about.
Sure.
But I think I really feel that I think me and Tony, if we can get through the main workflows, the case management, we'd be doing really well. I don't know about you.
I think so. Well, that's our goal this week on Thursday is, we'll have those workflows. We have the narratives, and then we'll have the workflows kind of fleshed out. And really, the byproduct of this week is kind of to really identify the things that are fuzzy clouds, in these simulations, and they literally are clouds in our workflows. And then next week we can put together the screens where we have more than enough information, because there's some parts where we have an embarrassment of riches, in terms of examples, and then the parts where we're missing. Well, that's not going to hold up production as long as we start getting that info the following week. So, and that's the purpose of the question document.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I feel pretty good if we're in good shape this Thursday if we have the list of questions and the workflows.
Yep, I think so too. I mean, that makes sense. Well, what we'll do is, don't worry about billing so much. I mean, it's just good to collect this information and start to think about it, but
Yes, please
don't
give me
bill.
the recording. I'll listen to it'll be one of my greatest hits on the podcast. I can listen to it in the
course.
morning on the way to,
Oh, that sounds fun.
yeah.
I will do that. Where do you want me to put?
Instead of, because I don't listen to Mad Cow in the morning, I like to listen to the Idaho WITS presentation.
Even
It's-
better.
Are you familiar with Mad Cow? You're in Chicago.
I was.
Is
in
it
the past.
Man Cow? Okay, yeah.
Man cow.
Or was that specific Chicago joke was for your benefit?
Is it cold over there now, Corey, or not yet?
No. I mean, it's 60s.
Yeah.
It's in the 60s. It's not
It's
bad.
kind of grim there because no one's going to the pennant race over there. So as far as baseball goes.
Shocker there, huh?
It'd be nice if you could go ahead and knock Cleveland out for us if you wouldn't mind. You guys are playing them, series against them. So if you could win a couple games, just make sure the Tigers win the division.
I'll focus on that
Appreciate it.
next. I'll
Thank you.
focus on that.
After you take care of the billing, of course, and the recording.
Sure. Yeah, right. Where do you want me to send the recording?
So if you can put that on the network, do you have VPN access?
I it hasn't worked very successfully for me, but I will try my best.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the case, then let me just send you. There's another option.
I can put it on our FTP drive too, and you can just get it from there.
Oh, perfect. FTP. Otherwise, I was going to share because sometimes these files get a little bit larger, and I found that the Google Drive is a great way of sharing this stuff. And I'm going to send you a.
I can just FTP it. That's
Thank
fine.
you, Tim, and thank you, Corey, for that overview. I think that was very helpful.
Good. Yeah, thank you, Tim.
The first time I heard it, I didn't get anything.
It's a lot to take. It's a lot to
Yeah.
So don't stress. Let's see. So Thursday we're going through the questions with Gene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Tony nor if you guys are working on the prototype. If you want me to join any of your kind of sessions this week, I'm available for the most part. Well, not totally, but I've got other stuff going on, but I'd love to be available for it if you have stuff.
Yeah, well, we get we just kind of have the, we call them jam sessions we have going on.
I don't know if it really helped you to be there for that,
Okay.
Corey. I just feel like it's.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I guess.
Why don't you listen in to one of them and
Yeah.
see how you feel about it?
Okay.
We're having one tomorrow from 3 to 4, and we might have one earlier, 3 to 4 Eastern. I think Chicago time that's
2 to 3, right?
2 to 3.
To kind of give you a perspective what it's looking like, if you hit that link, I can kind of take you through what we're doing. You don't mind hitting that?
If I can figure out where it is, I will be happy to hit that. That sounds weird.
Okay, we should stop the recording.
I know. Damn it. I always get myself in trouble. Yep. Okay, what do you want me to do?
We haven't dropped any F-bombs or anything yet. Oh, I thought you were presenting. Tim's presenting. Tim, would you mind?
Sure.
Yeah, hit that link. I just wanted to show you kind of basically what we're doing is we are making workflows for each one of these. The password for the link is FEI, the part that's highlighted in yellow. You need to know those credentials, but what we're doing is each one of the scenarios, we're making the workflow for it and kind of setting up our work. So if you see intake under the demo work column, you can click that. And the password is FEI_DD, go team. And remember your password. All right.
Yeah.
Ken.
Too late. But...
Oh, it looks like that needs to be added to. I'm glad you did this. I'll update the link right now. You're not on the project, so I'm glad we did this. But that's what, and you can join as well. But basically, this is what we're doing right now: is we're tracing between the narrative
Why don't you
Norhead.
show them the highlight?
Oh yeah, I can show. Let me present my screen here. But I'm glad you did that. If you give control to me.
Just show them the big screen.
Yeah.
I think it'll make you feel a little better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just haven't been able to see it. I tried to log in to iRise earlier, and
that's what, and that's I didn't realize you weren't added to that group. So can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Cool. So, our technical eligibility on the left-hand side. This is a narrative, all the stuff that we are going through, and on the right-hand side, this is what we are presenting to you. Yeah, medical waiver eligibility, financial eligibility, and then working out the requirements. I think that's the wrong link.
So yeah, I think.
But it's.
So you see in that wiki,
this is what
there's an intake workflow. That's one of the workflows we've been working on.
Yeah, I need to improve my link on that. So we're working through a couple different flows, and so kind of what we're going through is we're trying to compartmentalize this one and have it linked there, and putting together what work we'll need to collect so that we can actually simulate what the screens look like.
Okay.
But you can join the
So
creative process.
open up, for example, the waiver one, not the waitlist one. Notice of waiver eligibility.
Notice of waiver eligibility.
So it's So that goes through. If that person is financially, technically, and medically eligible, they will go on the waiver. If they're financially and technically eligible and they're from an institution, they'll have direct services. Otherwise, they're put on 3 different lists. Otherwise, you go on the state plan. So just kind of like that, and the pages will open up to different things.
Okay. So what we'll do, let me just repeat this so I understand what the concept will be here. So we start out at a high level showing the different workflows, right? So from there, what we'll do, well, I'm just coming at it from like when we actually do the demo for Goo and everybody else.
I don't think this is going to be what it looks like.
This is
I
not
think
a
this
demo.
is just our skeleton.
We are trying to get the workflow. In these, we're calling out pages that we're going to simulate.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if we'd start with like the high level workflow and then dive
so we're
into
gonna walk
each of the.
through. We're gonna walk through Scott Strawman's waiver eligibility process, and we're gonna refer him to the state plan at different points depending on whether or not he's eligible for the waiver. Okay. Then we're gonna go through his service and how he gets an ISP with his case manager, and how he gets services. I think we're gonna stop there. And then we can probably start working on billing.
Yeah. And we'll have this, the traditional, we'll have it exported as a traditional Word requirements document.
Right.
Probably say, this is the intake story that we had from the narrative. These are the work items that matched up from Marion. This is what we had. This is all the related
And Corey,
things.
the Nish took a look at it and she said she was surprised we got this far. So.
Cool.
That's because she had work this week.
Yeah, I'm happy we've gotten this far. I just want to, just so we're all on the same page, like I'm just trying to understand, what's our final product going to look like.
I think, Tony, next week we'll have more of a final something
Yes,
pretty.
next week will be where we actually start developing things designed to be looked at.
In iRise, like actual pages, prototype pages, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Right now we're just kind of pulling together a bunch of the workflow things. We might be able to show you something on Thursday as well, but the intent was really we wanted to go through the workflow, see if there's any impediments. Exactly. And so our process is to figure out what are the items that we don't have any information on that we couldn't simulate.
Yeah.
And we're generating the questions. As you can see, we've got several things where we can simulate from. But I'm going to go ahead and update the security too, that the disability ID is able to access the project.
Yeah, that would be great. And go ahead and invite me for your meeting tomorrow. I'm just just so I can listen in. I won't.
Now it's called a joint application modeling session instead of a JAD session. It's a JAM session.
Perfect. I enjoy that.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but we're not going to record it.
We could.
Speaking of recording, I'm going to stop that right now.